It's time to bake cookies. There are 8 categories of cookies, and cookies are categorized by how they're placed on the sheet pan for baking. I'm going to show you an example of each category. I'm going to show you the dough and how it looks before it goes into the oven. And then I'm going to shape a bit of the dough and place it on the sheet pan so you can see the form that it takes before it goes into the oven. And finally, I'm going to show you the final end product, the cookie. And last but not least, I'm going to demonstrate a most delicious cookie, the last category, the wafer cookie. How do you like your cookies? Thin and crispy or soft and chewy like I do? There are millions of cookie recipes out there, and they come in all shapes and sizes, as you can see. There are 8 basic categories of cookies, and they're categorized by how they go on the sheet pan. Now, for demonstration purposes, I have raw cookie dough, and I have the finished product next to it so you can see what it will look like after it's baked. Let's go into the first category. This is known as the drop cookie, the drop category. This type of cookie is a relatively stiff dough that is spooned out and then pushed out with a rubber spatula, or you can even use an ice cream scooper for more consistent size. The cookie is placed on there, and then it can be pressed down with moistened hands. Sometimes it's not, it's just left. All right? I'll do one more for you so you can see it. Pack it into your ice cream scooper. Again, drop cookie. It's dropped from the dough, from the main dough onto the sheet pan, okay? That's an easy category to remember. Refrigerator cookies. Refrigerator cookies are refrigerated, as the name implies. The dough usually has butter in it. You make the dough, you put it into a log shape, you wrap it, can be in plastic wrap. You can even, after refrigerating it, if you don't want to use it for several days, you can even freeze it. Take it out and then slice it. Very uniform. Placed right on the sheet pan. So remember, refrigerator cookie, because it is refrigerated before it is baked. Then we have a molded cookie. These are one of my favorites, peanut butter cookies. They're a moderately stiff dough. They're spooned out into little balls or little scoop shapes, and then you can roll. I roll these into balls. So you're actually rolling it into a ball. And I could leave this ball just as it is and put it down, and that would be the molded shape as it goes onto the sheet pan. But no, I want to roll it in sugar. So I'm going to roll it in some granulated sugar. And in this particular cookie, I want it to be flatter when it comes out because I want to put these truffled shaped chocolates on top. So I'm going to take a hard surface and I'm going to push down on it. So I have a measuring cup. I'm going to push down gently on it to flatten it. So that's my molded cookie, simple again. Now I have my bar cookie. These are biscotti, and that is a type of bar cookie. There are other types of bar cookies that you can make. This is just one example. As you notice, the dough is stiff. It's shaped into a log, and then it's flattened into a rectangle. It's baked, and then it's sliced into slices like this. And you can see it puffed up from the chemical leaveners that were used. I'm going to show another slice being cut. And in this case, biscotti are baked twice. So these biscotti will go back in the oven to be toasted on either side. But bar cookies do not mean that you have to put them back in the oven to be baked twice. Once this is baked, this could be the finished product also, depending on what you're making. But biscotti is a great example of that, so that's why I used it. Okay, moving right along. Another one of my favorites. I am a cookie fanatic. I love them. These are brownies. This is a sheet cookie. And again, thinner batter put right into the sheet pan and spread out evenly all around. Usually the pan is prepared. It's either greased, and it can also be, sometimes they'll have you put aluminum foil in there, the recipe. And then the batter is smoothed. Sometimes nuts are sprinkled on top or different things are sprinkled on top, and it's put in the oven. When it comes out, cooled and cut into bars, okay? Now these are rolled out cookies. Rolled out cookies, again, have a stiff dough. rolled out with a rolling pin, okay, and rolled thin enough that you can cookie cutter them out. So I have a cookie cutter here. I'm going to flour it, dust off the excess, and I'm going to form a few cookie shapes. And then these will go right onto my sheet pan and bake as they are. A little more time consuming, but you can use any shape you want. Really, really nice cookie. The next one is the piped category. These are always fun if you want something a little fancier. These are piped into, I have a small star-shaped tip on here, and I'm going to pipe them into little spirals. Okay, these are delicious. These are called citrus butter rings, and they are so good and light. They melt in your mouth. And you just pipe them out like that. They're really simple, but a little bit fancier. Now that's 7 categories of cookies, okay? My last category, I'm saving it because it's really such an incredibly fun cookie to make. This is known as a wafer cookie. Wafer cookie has a thin batter that's spread onto either a silicone baking mat or a parchment-covered sheet pan, and it can be shaped in really any shape you want. We're going to shape them into circles. When they come out of the oven, they're very malleable. The sugar is melted, and it hasn't recrystallized yet and firmed up yet. So because of its malleability, I can shape it into anything I want, and I'm going to roll them over a dowel rod or over the end of a wooden spoon, the handle of a wooden spoon, and come up with these beautiful pirouette shapes. So I'm going to get ready to make those, and I'm very excited because it's really an awesome recipe. But first, I got to clean up a little bit, clean and sanitize, and then I'll be all ready. I'm so excited. We're ready to make the pirouettes. These are the wafer cookies, and they're beautiful. They're excellent for garnishes, sticking in a bowl of ice cream. Let's get started. I can't wait. I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm going to come over to my electric mixer. I have 4 egg whites already in the mixer. And I'm going to add some superfine sugar because I want it to dissolve very quickly. On low speed, just add the sugar. Let that blend for a minute. While that's blending, I'm going to sift some flour. This is cake flour, low protein flour. Get that sifted. We don't want any lumps in our pirouettes. All right. I'm going to turn this up just a minute. I'm going to start adding my flour. You'd never guess these are so easy to make. Scrape down the bowl. That's what I'm going to do now. Trying to prevent lumps and raw ingredients from peeking out. We really want it homogeneously blended. When it starts looking creamy white, I'm ready to add the remaining ingredients. Some melted butter. And a little vanilla for flavoring. And that's it. That's the batter. Just incorporate those. Now, it's important to remember some wafer batters, they're of medium viscosity, but some of them can be very thin. This particular batter tends to be a little thin. I'm just going to go around with the rubber spatula to make sure I've gotten everything incorporated underneath. You can see it is thin, and that's the way it should be. It's runnier than a brownie batter, for instance, you can see, and it's definitely thinner than something like a rolled out cookie dough, but this is a different category, so that's okay. Now, The recipe is entitled Polka Dotted Pirouettes. We got to make some polka dots, and polka dots usually have a different color so we can actually see them. So I'm going to take a small portion of this batter, approximately 2 ounces for our polka dots. And I am going to use cocoa powder for these polka dots. So I'm going to incorporate just a few teaspoons of cocoa powder in here. Not enough to really thicken the batter, but just enough to color it. I'm going to mix it in. Again, no lumps. If your cocoa powder's lumpy, sift it before. You don't want a different viscosity than your vanilla flavored batter. So now I have some batter for my polka dots. Wafer cookies, when they come out of the oven, nice and soft and malleable, but only for a minute or two. So what you have to do is roll them quickly or before they solidify. What I'm going to do is put a small spoonful of my batter onto a silicone lined sheet pan. Take a little bit more. I want a good sized circle. And see what I'm doing? I'm spreading it. You can spread it with a spoon. You can spread it with an offset spatula. You do it with both so you can see. Whichever you feel you have more control. Doesn't have to be a perfect circle. See, the rounded tip of the offset gives you a little more control. Now you don't want to overcrowd this baking sheet. Okay, now I'm ready to pipe my polka dots. And I like to make them very random. Just make random polka dots all over the place. You don't want to plan anything. Oh, they look neat. I think they look really great. One more on that one. Now we're ready for the oven. Now once they get into the oven, they should be left in the oven for 6 to 9 minutes. They should not get too intensely brown. I've cleaned and sanitized my work surface, and here are my cookies fresh from the oven. Now we got to move fast. I'm going to loosen one of the cookies up, as you can see. Grab it with your gloved hand, flip it over, and we're going to take a wooden spoon handle and start rolling. Slide it off, put it seam side down so that the weight of the cookie on top of it will cause the seam to seal. Now you can also use a small dowel rod, which I have here, depending on how narrow you want your pirouettes, and that works very nicely. You can also grease them with nonstick cooking spray. Let me do one more. These are coming off very nicely. Upside down and roll. These are coming out great. If you don't have to make too many, you can stop in between each roll and actually let it set right on the handle or on the dowel rod until it cools and then slide it off. But it should keep its shape. Let's put this seam side down. And there you have 3 beautiful pirouettes. Now, if you're going to spend a little more time here and you know that the cookie is going to get hard, then put it right back in the oven. Take the whole sheet pan, put it back in the oven for a minute, maybe even 30 seconds, just to soften up that dough, that batter, and then take it out and roll again. But we have 3 beautiful pirouettes that would be gorgeous on a garnish, as a garnish on ice cream, on mousse, and I'm going to put them right on our plate. They look so elegant. Yummy. I can't wait to dig into those. They're so crunchy and thin.